Violet Sterling's wheelchair slammed against her mahogany desk as she hurled the bouquet of red roses across her corner office. Petals scattered like blood drops on marble. "Get him out." Her voice cut through the rain-streaked silence sharp enough to make her assistant flinch. But the scruffy delivery man didn't move, just stood there in his soaked jacket, a small boy clutching his hand, both pairs of eyes watching her with something she couldn't name. Then the card fell. That damned wax seal, her father's seal, glinted under the fluorescent lights, and Violet's breath caught in her throat. What secret could a dead man's seal unlock? Comment your city below, so I can see how far this story travels, and hit subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next. The security guard reached for Dominic's shoulder, but Violet raised one perfectly manicured finger. "Wait." Her eyes fixed on the card lying face up on the floor, that crimson wax seal reflecting light like a warning beacon. Charles Sterling's personal seal. The one he'd destroyed before his death, or so she'd been told. "Where did you get that?" Her wheelchair hummed forward, closing the distance between them. Dominic Cole didn't blink. "A man gave it to me 3 weeks ago, outside St. Michael's Church. Said his daughter would need to hear from him one more time. My father died 4 months ago." "I know." The silence stretched. Levi, Dominic's son, pressed closer to his father's leg, leaving a wet patch where his rain-soaked clothes touched the expensive fabric. Violet's assistant, Marcus, cleared his throat. "Ms. Sterling, you're 2 p.m. with the board." "Cancel it." She didn't look at him. "Everyone out, except you." She pointed at Dominic. "Ma'am, I don't think—" the security guard started. "I said out." Her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more authority than a shout. The room emptied in seconds, leaving only Violet, Dominic, and the boy who couldn't have been more than 6. Violet bent forward her chair, bringing her low enough to pick up the card. Her hands shook just slightly, but enough that she gripped the armrests to steady them. The paper felt thick between her fingers, expensive. Her father's handwriting covered one side. "Violet, if you're reading this, then the man before you is Dominic Cole. 3 years ago, he pulled me from a burning car on Route 7. Refused the reward. Refused even to tell anyone his name. But I found him anyway because I needed to know what kind of man saves a stranger and asks for nothing. Trust him. He sees what others don't. Dad." The words blurred. Violet blinked hard, refusing to let the moisture in her eyes become anything more. "You saved my father." Statement, not question. Dominic shifted his weight. "I did what anyone would do." "Don't!" She looked up sharply. "Don't insult my intelligence with false modesty. Anyone wouldn't. Most people would have driven past. Some would have called 911 and kept going. You pulled him out." "The car was on fire." "Exactly." She studied him, really looked this time past the threadbare jacket and the shoes that had seen better years. His hands were calloused, nails clean, but permanently stained with something, paint maybe, or wood stain. His face carried the kind of exhaustion that didn't come from a single sleepless night, but from years of them strung together. But his eyes were clear, direct, unafraid. "Why are you delivering flowers?" "It's Thursday." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I've got." Dominic glanced down at Levi. "I take what work comes. Flower shop needed a Thursday delivery guy. Guy before me quit. I needed the job." "You have a son." "That's generally how I describe him, yes." Despite everything, Violet's mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. "His mother?" "Not in the picture." The words came out flat, practiced. A story told so many times it had lost its edges. Violet nodded slowly. She knew something about loss. About the spaces people left behind when they disappeared, whether by choice or by fate. Her father. Her ability to walk. Her mother years before that. Mr. Cole. Just Dominic. Dominic. She tested the name. "My father left me more than a company when he died. He left me a mess. Contracts that don't add up. Board members who smile to my face and plot behind my back. And apparently, he left me you. I'm just delivering flowers. No. She turned her chair toward the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Rain hammered against the glass, turning the world beyond into an impressionist painting. You're not. My father didn't do anything without a reason. He tracked you down after the accident, kept tabs on you for 3 years, then he died, and somehow arranged for you to deliver roses to me on a random Thursday with a letter bearing his personal seal. A seal I watched him melt down in this very office 6 months before his death. She spun back to face him. So no, Dominic Cole. You're not just delivering flowers. You're delivering a message, and I need to know what it is. Dominic was quiet for a long moment. Levi tugged on his hand. Daddy, I'm cold. I know, buddy. He crouched down eye level with his son. Can you be brave for me, just a little longer? The boy nodded, but his lower lip trembled. Violet pressed a button on her chair's armrest. Marcus, her assistant, appeared in the doorway within seconds. Yes, Ms. Sterling. Take the boy to the break room, get him hot chocolate, and call down to the company store, have them send up dry clothes. Size. What, 6? 5, Dominic said quietly. Size 5. Comfortable, warm. Charge it to my personal account. Right away. Marcus extended his hand to Levi. Come on, champ. You like marshmallows. Levi looked up at his father. Dominic nodded. It's okay. I'll be right here. After they left, Violet gestured to the chair across from her desk. Sit. I'm wet. The chair cost $40,000. I promise it can handle some water. Dominic sat. Tell me about the man who gave you the card. He was old, late 60s maybe. Wore a suit that looked like it cost more than my car. Spoke with an accent, British, I think. Found me outside the church where I take Levi on Sundays. Said he worked for Charles Sterling. Said Mr. Sterling had left instructions in case anything happened to him. What kind of instructions? To deliver roses to Sterling Industries every Thursday for 6 months. To always request Ms. Violet Sterling personally. To not give up if you refuse to see me. Dominic paused. And to give you the card on the 3rd visit. This is your 3rd visit. First 2 times security turned me away at the ground floor. Violet drummed her fingers on the armrest. What else did this man tell you? That your father believed you were in danger. That people inside this company were lying to you. That you'd need someone outside your usual circle. Someone who couldn't be bought. And you agreed to this, to deliver flowers based on the paranoid instructions of a dead man. He paid me $10,000. Dominic met her gaze steadily. That's 4 months of rent. A year of groceries. It's Levi's school supplies and his winter coat, and the reason I didn't have to choose between heating our apartment and his medication when he had pneumonia in January. So yes, I agreed. Honest. Brutally, uncomfortably honest. Violet wasn't sure what to do with that. In her world, everyone wanted something. Everyone had an angle. But Dominic just sat there, rainwater pooling under his chair, stating facts like they were the most natural thing in the world. What medication? Asthma. Nothing serious, but the prescriptions add up. She nodded. My father was many things. Paranoid was definitely one of them. But he was rarely wrong. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through her calendar. I have a board meeting tomorrow morning, quarterly review. They're going to push for a merger with Titan Corporation. You don't want that. How do you know what I want? Because you're sitting here talking to a wet flower delivery guy instead of preparing your defense. Which means either you've already decided to let the merger happen, or you know something's wrong with it, but can't prove it. Violet stared at him. You're not what you seem, are you? I'm exactly what I seem. Single father, high school diploma. Too many jobs to count. But I read Ms. Sterling. I pay attention. And I spent 3 years in finance before Levi's mother left, and I had to take work that let me keep my own hours. Finance. Junior analyst at Morrison & Webb, small firm, specialized in due diligence for mergers and acquisitions. He shrugged. Then Emma left, and I had a 6-month-old who needed his father home at night. Morrison and Webb wasn't interested in flexible schedules. So you left finance to become a delivery driver. To become Levi's father. Full-time. The delivery driving came later. Something in Violet's chest twisted. She'd spent so long building walls around herself around Sterling Industries, around the vulnerable parts of her, that the accident had exposed. But here was this man these walls casually dismantled without even talking about sacrifice, like it was the most obvious choice in the world. The Titan merger. She pulled up a document on her tablet, handed it across the desk. Tell me what you see. Dominic scanned the first page, then the second. His finger traced down a column of numbers. These valuations are inflated. That's what I thought. And this footnote. He squinted. The debt structure. They're hiding something in subsidiary liabilities. $300 million in pension obligations they've conveniently forgotten to mention, which means if this merger goes through, Sterling Industries absorbs that debt. We become responsible for thousands of retirees we didn't know existed. It tanks our credit rating, makes us vulnerable to a hostile takeover within 6 months. Violet's hands clenched. And my board knows this. Or at least some of them do. They're setting you up. They're setting up a disabled CEO who they think is too weak to see the knife coming. Her voice went cold. They're wrong. Dominic handed back the tablet. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. That's the problem. My father would have known. He had instincts for this kind of thing. He could walk into a room and know exactly who to trust and who to watch. I have spreadsheets and suspicions, but no proof. Then we get proof. Your father hired me to deliver flowers for 6 months. I figure that means he thought you might need help for 6 months. I've got 5.5 left. You're a delivery driver. Who used to be an analyst. Who your father trusted enough to track down and hire 3 years after a car accident. Who has nothing to lose, and a son who needs to learn that sometimes you help people because it's the right thing to do. Dominic stood. Plus, I'm already wet. Might as well make it worth something. Violet studied him. Her father's words echoed in her mind. Trust him. He sees what others don't. I don't even know you. You know I pulled your father from a burning car. You know I kept delivering flowers even after security threw me out twice. You know I'm standing here in a $40,000 chair, and the most expensive thing I own is probably my son's inhaler. He pulled his jacket tighter. And you know your father thought I was worth finding. That's more than you know about most people on your board. He was right. Disturbingly, uncomfortably right. If I agree to this, and I'm not saying I am, what exactly are you proposing? Let me look at your files, the ones you can't show your lawyers or your board without tipping them off. I'll find what's hiding in the numbers. Then you decide what to do with it. And your compensation. Already got it. $10,000 buys a lot of loyalty. That money was for flower delivery. Then consider this a bonus service. Customer satisfaction guarantee. Despite everything. The merger, the betrayal, the weight of her father's ghost pressing down on her shoulders. Violet laughed. Actually laughed for the first time in weeks. You're either very brave or very stupid. Probably a little of both. Dominic smiled, and it transformed his face. Made him look younger, less worn. Levi would say I'm brave stupid. It's his favorite insult. Smart kid. He is. Gets it from his mother, unfortunately, for both of us. The door opened. Marcus appeared with Levi, now dressed in a Sterling Industries sweatshirt that hung to his knees and sweatpants rolled up at the ankles. The boy clutched a hot chocolate with both hands, marshmallow foam on his upper lip. Daddy, they have a whole room with snacks and video games, and Mr. Marcus said I could come back. Dominic's expression softened in a way that made Violet's throat tight. That's great, buddy. Did you say thank you? Thank you, Mr. Marcus. Levi beamed. Then he noticed Violet. Thank you too, Ms. Sterling. You have a really cool wheelchair. Levi, Dominic started, but Violet held up a hand. Thank you, Levi. I think it's pretty cool too. The boy nodded solemnly, satisfied. He went back to his hot chocolate. Violet made a decision. The kind her father used to make, quick, instinctive, based on nothing but gut feeling and a dead man's letter. Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock. There's a conference room on the 42nd floor that's not on the main building directory. I'll have Marcus give you the access code. She turned to her assistant. Set up Mr. Cole with a contractor badge, 6-month duration, research consultant position. Marcus's eyebrows rose, but he nodded. Of course. Mr. Cole Dominic, I'm trusting you with information that could destroy this company if it falls into the wrong hands. If my father was wrong about you. He wasn't. Simple. Certain. I hope you're right. She glanced at the roses still scattered across her office floor. And next Thursday, when you deliver the flowers, use the executive entrance. Dominic collected Levi, who waved enthusiastically at everyone on the way out. After they left, Violet sat alone in her office, rain still hammering at the windows, her father's letter resting on her desk. Trust him. He sees what others don't. She picked up one of the fallen roses. A thorn pricked her finger, drawing a tiny bead of blood. She watched it well up bright red against her pale skin. Tomorrow she would face her board. Tomorrow she would smile and nod and pretend she didn't know they were circling like sharks. Tomorrow, she would be the perfect, polished CEO they expected. But today, she'd made a choice. To trust a stranger in a wet jacket. To believe her father's final message. To stop pretending she could handle everything alone. The rose thorns bit deeper. Violet didn't pull away. Some things were worth the pain. Friday came too fast and too slow at the same time. Violet spent Thursday night in her office, spreading files across every surface, looking for patterns she'd missed. The numbers blurred together after midnight. She'd sent Marcus home hours ago, but sleep felt like surrender, and she wasn't ready to surrender yet. Her phone buzzed at 2:47 a.m. Unknown number. Hello, it's Dominic. Sorry for calling late. Levi had a nightmare and I couldn't sleep after, so I started looking through some public filings for Titan Corporation. The ones anyone can access online. Violet sat up straighter. And their CEO, Richard Vance. He served on Sterling Industries' board 6 years ago. I know. My father forced him out after a disagreement about overseas manufacturing. Right. But did you know Vance's nephew, Peter Chen, is your current VP of Finance? The room went cold. What? Changed his name legally 8 years ago. Mother's maiden name. It's all in the court records if you know where to look. Dominic paused. Ms. Sterling, I think your father knew. I think that's why he hired me. Violet's hands shook. Peter Chen had been her father's hire, his trusted advisor. The man who'd walked her through every major financial decision since the accident. The man who'd presented the Titan merger as their salvation. Send me everything you found. Already did. Check your personal email, not your work one. Smart. If Peter had access to company systems, nothing there was safe. Dominic, if you're right. I am right. And Ms. Sterling, be careful at that board meeting. Don't let them know you know. The line went dead. Violet didn't sleep after that. She read through every document Dominic sent, tracing the connections Peter had hidden. By the time dawn broke, she understood. This wasn't just a bad merger. This was revenge. Richard Vance had spent 6 years planning how to destroy Charles Sterling's legacy, and he'd planted his nephew right in the heart of the company to do it. The board meeting started at 9. Violet arrived at 8:45, wheelchair, humming through the executive corridor. Every board member was already seated, waiting. Peter Chen stood at the head of the table, presentation remote in hand. Ms. Sterling, we were just discussing the Titan proposal. Without me. She positioned herself at the table's center. How thoughtful. We didn't want to waste your time with preliminary discussions. Margaret Ashford, the board's senior member, smiled with too many teeth. Peter was walking us through the updated terms. Updated. Titan has generously agreed to accelerate the timeline. We could finalize everything by next Friday. Peter clicked to the next slide. Charts and graphs filled the screen. As you can see, the projections are even stronger than we initially thought. Violet studied the numbers. They'd been massaged, smoothed, made beautiful. All the ugly parts hidden in footnotes and subsidiary clauses. And the pension obligations. Peter's smile never wavered. Fully accounted for in Section 12, subsection C. Titan has agreed to a graduated assumption of those responsibilities. Graduated meaning they'll take on 20% per year over 5 years. Very reasonable. So Sterling Industries carries 80% of a $300 million liability for the first year, 60% for the second, and so on. It's a fair compromise. It's financial suicide. Violet kept her voice level. It puts us underwater within 8 months, makes us vulnerable to exactly the kind of hostile takeover that Titan is famous for. The room went quiet. Peter's smile tightened. Ms. Sterling, I assure you we've done extensive due diligence. Have you? Because I've done some due diligence of my own. She pulled out her tablet. Did you know that Richard Vance's nephew changed his name 8 years ago? Interesting timing. Right before he applied for a position at Sterling Industries. Peter's face went white. Margaret leaned forward. Violet, what are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts. Peter Chen was born Peter Vance. His uncle is Richard Vance, CEO of Titan Corporation. The same Richard Vance my father fired from this board for attempting to steer company assets toward his personal investments. She looked directly at Peter. The same Richard Vance who swore he'd make my father regret that decision. This is absurd. Peter slammed his hand on the table. I've given this company 6 years of loyal service, says. You've given this company 6 years of careful manipulation building toward this exact moment. The merger isn't a business opportunity, it's revenge. Your uncle's revenge. You can't prove any of this. Actually, I can. Violet pulled up a document. I spent last night going through every recommendation you've made since joining Sterling Industries. Funny pattern. Every single one weakened our position slightly. Not enough to raise alarms, just enough to make us desperate. Desperate enough to consider a merger that would hand Richard Vance everything he wanted. Margaret's expression shifted from annoyance to calculation. Peter, is this true? Of course not. She's paranoid, just like her father at the end. Peter turned to the rest of the board. Charles Sterling died seeing conspiracies everywhere. Apparently his daughter inherited that trait along with his company. My father wasn't paranoid. He was right. Violet's voice cut through the room. And I can prove it. Marcus, please send our guests in. The conference room doors opened. Dominic entered carrying a thick folder. Behind him, a woman in a sharp suit followed. This is Eleanor Price, Violet said. Former senior auditor at Titan Corporation. Ms. Price, would you please share what you told me this morning? Eleanor stepped forward, her voice steady. I worked at Titan for 12 years. Last month I was fired for refusing to sign off on falsified pension liability reports, the reports Peter Chen is using for this merger presentation. She opened her own folder. These are the real numbers. Titan Corporation is carrying $400 million in pension debt, not $300. And the graduated assumption clause Peter mentioned, it doesn't exist in the actual merger contract, only in the summary he's been showing the board. Peter lunged forward, but 2 security guards materialized at the doorway. Violet had planned for this moment. Sit down, Peter. You bitch, you think you're so smart. I think I'm my father's daughter, and I think you underestimated what that means. Violet turned to the board. I'm calling a vote. All in favor of terminating the Titan merger negotiations effective immediately. Every hand rose. Even Margaret's, though she looked furious about it. All in favor of terminating Peter Chen's employment and referring his conduct to the SEC for investigation. Again, unanimous. Peter stood, his face twisted with rage. This isn't over. My uncle. Your uncle can sue if he wants. We'll countersue for fraud, conspiracy, and corporate espionage. I've already retained Morrison and Webb to handle the case. Violet smiled coldly. I believe they're quite good at due diligence. Security escorted Peter out. The board members filed away in uncomfortable silence, leaving only Violet, Dominic, Eleanor, and Marcus. Eleanor approached Violet's desk. Ms. Sterling, thank you for listening. When Mr. Cole contacted me, I wasn't sure you'd believe me. Mr. Cole has proven to be remarkably trustworthy. Violet glanced at Dominic, who'd retreated to the corner of the room. Ms. Price, how would you feel about a position as Sterling Industries' new VP of Finance? I seem to have an opening. Eleanor's eyes widened. Yes, absolutely yes. Excellent. Marcus will handle the details. I'll want you to start Monday. After Eleanor left, Violet turned to Dominic. You found her. I found 6 former Titan employees who'd been fired for asking questions. Eleanor was the only one willing to go on record. He set his folder on the table. The rest of this is documentation. Every time Peter accessed company files he shouldn't have. Every email he sent to his uncle using a private server. Every small decision that weakened Sterling Industries' position. How did you find all this in 2 days? I didn't sleep much, and I called in some favors from my old firm. Turns out Morrison and Webb has been watching Titan Corporation for a while. They were happy to share information when I explained what was happening. Violet shook her head slowly. My father really did know what he was doing. He knew you'd need someone outside the system, someone who couldn't be bought or threatened because they had nothing to lose. Dominic pulled out a red rose from his jacket pocket. Somehow it looked fresh. He also knew you'd need a reminder that not everyone has an agenda. That's incredibly naive. Maybe, but I prefer to think of it as hopeful. He set the rose on her desk. Your father pulled himself out of a burning car to write that letter because he hoped you'd have someone you could trust when you needed it most. Maybe naive, but it worked. Violet picked up the rose, careful of the thorns. What happens now? Now you run your company. I deliver flowers next Thursday. We see where the next 5 months take us. That's it. That's it. And if I wanted to hire you properly, not as a contractor, but as a permanent analyst. Dominic hesitated. Ms. Sterling. Violet, if you're going to turn me down, at least use my first name. Violet. He tested it. I have a son. School pickups at 3. Doctor appointments without warning. Sick days that happen because 6-year-olds are basically germ factories. No corporate job survives that schedule. Then we make a schedule that does. She met his eyes. My father chose you for a reason. Today proved he was right. I'm not going to waste that gift by letting you walk away just because traditional corporate structures can't accommodate a single father. People will talk. Disabled CEO hires flower delivery guy. Creates scandal, questions your judgment. Let them talk. They questioned my judgment when I took over after the accident. Said I was too young, too inexperienced, too weak. I'm still here. They're not. Violet's voice hardened. I don't make decisions based on what people will say. I make them based on what's right for this company. And right now, what's right is having someone I can trust absolutely. That's worth more than any credentials. Dominic was quiet for a long moment. Can I think about it? Take the weekend. But Dominic, I'm serious. Sterling Industries needs people who see what others don't. My father understood that. I'm starting to understand it too. After he left, Violet sat alone in the conference room. The rose sat on the table, single point of color against the gray. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He's one of the good ones. Don't let him slip away. And Violet, I'm proud of you. Dad. Impossible. Her father was dead. But the text came from his old private number, the one that had been disconnected months ago. She called it. Voicemail. Her father's voice. You've reached Charles Sterling. I'm probably in a meeting or avoiding someone annoying. Leave a message unless you're calling to sell me something, in which case don't. Violet's throat closed. She ended the call. Another text appeared. The number's on a timer. 5 more messages over 5 months. I recorded them before I died. Wanted to make sure you knew I was still watching out for you. First message, trust the flower guy. He's better than he looks. Second message arrives next month. Miss you, sweetheart. Dad. She pressed her hand to her mouth, but the sob came anyway. Grief and gratitude and fury at her father for being dead, but somehow still orchestrating her life from beyond the grave. Marcus knocked softly. Ms. Sterling, are you all right? She wiped her eyes. I'm fine. Just my father being dramatic even in death. That sounds like Mr. Sterling. Marcus, I need you to do something for me. Dominic Cole has a son, Levi, 6 years old. I want to set up a scholarship fund. Full tuition any school in the city plus after-school programs and medical coverage. Ms. Sterling, that's generous. But if Mr. Cole hasn't accepted the position, he will. And when he does, I don't want him worrying about whether he can afford his son's education. She straightened in her chair. My father spent 3 years making sure I'd have help when I needed it. The least I can do is make sure Dominic can take the job without sacrificing his son's future. I'll handle it immediately. That evening, Violet went home to her empty penthouse. The view stretched for miles, city lights glittering like spilled diamonds. She'd bought this place after the accident, everything on one-level doorways wide enough for her chair. Her father had hated it. Said it looked like a hospital. She'd told him it looked like freedom. Her phone rang. Unknown number again. Hello. Ms. Sterling, it's Dominic. Is this a bad time? No. How's Levi? Asleep. Finally. He spent all afternoon telling everyone at his school about the lady with the cool wheelchair and the hot chocolate with 17 marshmallows. 17. His count, not mine. I suspect exaggeration. Violet smiled despite herself. He's allowed to exaggerate. It was impressive hot chocolate. He thinks you're a superhero now. Fair warning. Better than what most people think. Silence. Then Dominic spoke, his voice careful. I wanted to say thank you, for today, for trusting me with this. You saved my company. Your father saved your company. I just helped connect the dots he'd already drawn. That's not true and you know it. Dominic, without you, I would have walked into that merger blind. Peter would have won. Titan would have absorbed Sterling Industries within a year, and my father's legacy would have been destroyed. She paused. You didn't just deliver flowers. You delivered exactly what I needed when I needed it. That's not luck. That's not following instructions. That's you seeing what others don't. Your father's words. My father was right. Another pause. About the job offer. Violet's heart kicked up. Yes. I need to know this is real, not charity, not pity for the single dad, not guilt because your father hired me. I need to know you actually want me there. I want you there. Not because of who you were, or who my father thought you were. Because of who you are. Someone who pulls people from burning cars. Someone who spends their nights digging through corporate filings because it's the right thing to do. Someone who teaches their son about bravery by showing it every single day. She took a breath. That's who I want at Sterling Industries. That's who I need. Then I accept. On one condition. Name it. If this doesn't work, if I can't balance Levi and the job, if I'm not good enough, you fire me. No hesitation, no guilt. Sterling Industries is bigger than both of us. It has to come first. Deal. With one condition of my own. What's that? You let me help. With Levi, with scheduling, with whatever you need to make this work. My father spent 3 years setting this up because he believed you deserved a chance. I'm not going to let logistics be the reason it fails. Dominic laughed, soft and surprised. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone harder. More like the woman who threw roses across her office. That woman's still here. She just learned that sometimes accepting help isn't the same as accepting defeat. Violet looked out at the city. See you Monday, Dominic. See you Monday. After he hung up, Violet stayed by the window watching the lights. Her father's rose sat in a vase on her table, red against white marble. She'd kept all the roses from Thursday, arranged them carefully, thorns and all. Some things were worth the pain. Some risks were worth taking. And some gifts from beyond the grave were worth accepting even when they came in the form of a soaking wet flower delivery guy who saw too much and said too little until it mattered. Her phone buzzed one last time. Her father's number. P.S. The scholarship fund was a nice touch. Knew you'd figure it out. Dad. Violet smiled through fresh tears. Even dead Charles Sterling was still 10 steps ahead, still watching, still making sure his daughter knew she wasn't alone. She raised her glass toward the window. Thanks, Dad. The city sparkled back full of secrets and second chances, and thorns that drew blood but were worth holding anyway. Monday morning arrived with unexpected snow. Violet watched it fall past her office windows, while Marcus briefed her on the weekend's developments. The SEC had opened a formal investigation into Peter Chen. Richard Vance's lawyers had already sent 3 cease and desist letters, all of which Sterling Industries' legal team had cheerfully ignored. And Mr. Cole, Violet asked. Arrived at 7, said he wanted to get settled before Levi's school started. Marcus hesitated. Ms. Sterling, the staff, is talking. Questions about why a delivery driver suddenly has an office on the executive floor. Let them talk. What are they saying? That you've lost perspective. That grief over your father has clouded your judgment. That hiring someone with no credentials makes the company look desperate. Marcus straightened his tablet. Margaret Ashford called twice yesterday. She wants a private meeting to discuss your decision-making process. Tell Margaret I'll meet with her when I'm good and ready, which is never. Violet turned her chair toward the door. Take me to Dominic's office. They found him unpacking a single cardboard box. The office was small, but had a window. Dominic looked up as they entered, a framed photo of Levi in his hands. This is too much. It's an office. You need an office. I've worked from kitchen tables for 3 years. This is... He gestured around the room. This is more than I need. It's less than you deserve. Put the picture down and come with me. I want to show you something. Dominic followed her to the 42nd floor to the conference room she'd mentioned on Thursday. Inside, filing cabinets lined 3 walls. A massive table dominated the center, already covered in documents. This is everything my father left behind. Personal files, not company records. Notes about people he trusted, people he didn't, deals that felt wrong even when the numbers looked right. Violet moved to the nearest cabinet. He kept a separate set of books. Not illegal, just obsessively detailed. Every conversation he thought mattered. Every instinct he couldn't prove. Dominic picked up one of the notebooks. Charles Sterling's handwriting filled the pages, quick and sharp. He was tracking something. He was tracking everything, including Richard Vance. Violet pulled out a thick folder. This goes back 8 years, right around the time Peter changed his name and applied here. Your father knew from the beginning. He suspected, but he couldn't prove the connection, and he needed to know what Vance was planning. So he hired Peter anyway, kept him close, watched him. She opened the folder. Every recommendation Peter made my father documented. Every meeting, every email, every decision that pushed Sterling Industries toward vulnerability. He let Peter sabotage the company. He let Peter think he was sabotaging the company. My father was already building safeguards, alternative suppliers, backup contracts, redundancies. Peter didn't know existed. Violet's voice went soft. He was protecting me, building a safety net so that when Peter finally made his move, I'd have everything I needed to survive it. Dominic sat down hard. The car accident. When did it happen? 3 years ago, June 15th. 3 weeks after he found me. 3 weeks after he hired someone outside the company to watch over you. Dominic's face paled. Ms. Sterling, Violet, what if it wasn't an accident? The words hung in the air between them. Violet had thought the same thing 1,000 times in the dark hours before dawn, but hearing someone else say it made it real. The police investigated. They said the brake line corroded. Old car, regular wear and tear. What kind of car? A '67 Mustang. He restored it himself. That car was his baby. He checked every system personally, every month. Violet's hands clenched. The brake line was fine 2 weeks before the accident. He'd just replaced the rear calipers. Dominic began pacing. If someone wanted to kill him but make it look like an accident, then they succeeded. There's no evidence of tampering, no witnesses, nothing but my gut telling me that my father didn't die because of a corroded brake line. But you can't prove it. I can't even investigate it without looking paranoid. Margaret's already questioning my judgment. If I start accusing people of murdering my father based on a feeling, she didn't finish. She didn't have to. Dominic returned to the folder, flipping through pages. These notes. Your father was documenting more than just Peter's activities. He was tracking Margaret too, and James Sutton, and half the executive team. He trusted no one at the end, except you apparently, a stranger who pulled him from a burning car and refused a reward. Maybe that's exactly why he trusted me, because I didn't want anything from him. A knock interrupted them. Marcus appeared in the doorway. Ms. Sterling, I'm sorry, but we have a situation. Eleanor Price is in your office. She says it's urgent. They found Eleanor pacing. Her usually composed demeanor had cracked. They're coming after me. Titan's lawyers filed a lawsuit this morning. Breach of contract, theft of trade secrets, corporate espionage. They're asking for $50 million in damages and a permanent injunction preventing me from working in the finance industry. Violet's jaw tightened. It's intimidation. They can't prove any of that. They don't have to prove it. They just have to make it expensive and public enough that no one else will testify against them. Eleanor's voice shook. Ms. Sterling, I have 2 kids in college. I can't afford to fight Titan Corporation in court for years. I'm sorry. I can't work here. I can't be involved in this. Eleanor, wait. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but I can't risk losing everything. She fled before Violet could stop her. Silence filled the office. Then Dominic spoke. They're going to do this to everyone who helps you. Destroy them financially until you're isolated. I know. We need a different strategy, something they won't expect. Such as, we stop playing defense, we go after them. Dominic pulled out his phone. I know someone at the Times, investigative journalist. She's been looking for a story about corporate retaliation. This is exactly what she needs. If we go public, Titan will come after Sterling Industries harder. They'll manufacture scandals, plant stories, turn our shareholders against us. Maybe. Or maybe the public exposure boxes them in, makes it harder to operate in the shadows. Dominic met her eyes. Your father spent 3 years preparing for this fight. But he didn't prepare you to fight alone. He prepared you to know when to trust people, when to take risks, when to stop protecting yourself and start protecting what matters. And what matters, the truth, justice, making sure Richard Vance doesn't get to destroy your father's legacy because you were too afraid of what he might do. Dominic's voice hardened. I've spent 3 years taking whatever work came, swallowing my pride, accepting less because I had a son to feed. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of letting men like Vance win because they're willing to be ruthless and we're not. Violet studied him. This wasn't the careful, quiet man who'd delivered flowers on Thursday. This was someone who'd been pushed too far and had finally decided to push back. Call your journalist friend, set up a meeting. But Dominic, if we do this, there's no going back. Titan will try to destroy both of us. Then we'd better make sure we destroy them first. The meeting with the journalist happened that evening in a diner 3 blocks from Violet's apartment. Sarah Chen, no relation to Peter, had been covering corporate malfeasance for 15 years. She listened to everything they had asked, sharp questions, and didn't blink at the implications. This is big. Bigger than you probably realize. If Richard Vance has been planting operatives in competitor companies for years, this isn't just about Sterling Industries. This is a pattern. Sarah pulled out a recorder. I need everything on record, every document, every timeline, every connection you found. They talked for 3 hours. By the end, Sarah had enough material for a series of articles. I'll need 2 weeks to verify sources and build the story. Can you hold out that long? We don't have a choice, Violet said. After Sarah left, Dominic and Violet sat in the empty diner, cold coffee going colder between them. Your father knew this would get ugly. My father knew a lot of things he didn't share. Violet traced patterns in the condensation on her water glass. Sometimes I'm angry at him for leaving me with this mess. Sometimes I'm grateful he left me the tools to handle it. Mostly I'm just tired. When did you last take a day off? I don't remember. That's not healthy. Neither is corporate espionage, but here we are. She looked up. How do you do it, balance Levi and work and all the pressure? Honestly, most days I don't. Most days I'm barely keeping my head above water, but Levi makes it worth it. Coming home to him, hearing about his day, watching him grow into this incredible little person, that's what I'm fighting for. That makes the rest bearable. Must be nice, having that clarity. You have clarity too. You're fighting for your father's legacy, for the company he built, for the people who depend on Sterling Industries for their livelihoods. That's not the same as a 6-year-old who thinks you hung the moon. Dominic smiled. He doesn't think I hung the moon. He thinks I'm reasonably competent on good days and hilariously incompetent on bad ones. Last week I tried to make pancakes and set off the smoke alarm. He told his teacher I wasn't allowed to cook unsupervised anymore. Despite everything, Violet laughed. Real laughter that surprised them both. He sounds like a handful. He is. Best handful I've ever had. Dominic's expression sobered. Violet, if this goes wrong, if Titan comes after me and I lose my job, Levi suffers. I need to know you understand that risk. I understand it. That's why I set up the scholarship fund. Whatever happens, Levi's education is secure. His medical coverage too. I made sure it's in a trust that can't be touched by lawsuits or corporate actions. Dominic stared at her. You did what? I set up a scholarship fund. Marcus mentioned it to you, didn't he? No, he didn't mention it. Dominic's voice went rough. Violet, I can't accept that. Too late. It's done. And before you argue, it's not charity. It's insurance. You're taking a massive risk by helping me. The least I can do is make sure your son doesn't pay the price if it goes wrong. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're willing to stand up when it's easier to stay quiet. I know you're teaching your son to do the same. That's worth protecting. She pushed her coffee away. My father used to say that the measure of a person wasn't what they did when people were watching, but what they did when no one would ever know. You pulled him from a burning car and walked away without telling anyone your name. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are. Dominic's eyes were bright. He blinked hard, looked away. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive the next 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks were brutal. Titan's lawyers sent new cease and desist letters daily. Someone leaked to the press that Violet had hired a flower delivery driver with no credentials to handle sensitive corporate matters. The stock price dropped 3%. Margaret called an emergency board meeting to discuss Violet's competence. Through it all, Dominic worked. He showed up at 7 each morning, left at 2:30 for Levi's school pickup, then worked from home until midnight. He built timelines, connected dots, found patterns in Peter's activities that even Violet's father had missed. On Thursday, he delivered roses again. This time, he used the executive entrance, and this time Levi came with him, wearing his Sterling Industries sweatshirt, like a badge of honor. Ms. Violet! The boy launched himself at her wheelchair. Daddy says you're fighting bad guys like a superhero. Your daddy talks too much. That's what Daddy says too. Levi pulled back, suddenly serious. Are you winning? Violet looked at Dominic, who shrugged helplessly. She turned back to Levi. I don't know yet, but I'm trying. That's what Daddy says we should do. Try really hard even when it's scary. He reached into his backpack, pulled out a drawing. I made this for you. It's you and Daddy fighting a dragon. The dragon is wearing a tie because Daddy says corporate bad guys wear ties. The drawing showed Violet in her wheelchair wielding what appeared to be a sword, while Dominic threw roses at a necktie-wearing dragon. It was terrible and perfect at the same time. This is the best thing anyone's ever given me, Violet said, and meant it. You can put it in your office so you remember you're brave. After they left, Violet taped the drawing to her wall, right next to her father's degrees and awards. Marcus came in, saw it, and wisely said nothing. That evening, Violet's phone rang. Her father's number. Message 2 of 5. By now things are probably getting hard. Vance is probably pushing back. The board is probably questioning you. You're probably wondering if I was wrong to put you in this position. I wasn't. You're stronger than you think, Violet. Stronger than I ever was. The wheelchair doesn't make you weak. It makes you someone who gets up every day and fights even when the world tells you to quit. That's not weakness. That's the kind of strength that wins wars. Keep fighting, sweetheart, and trust Dominic. He's better than both of us, Dad. Violet pressed the phone to her chest and cried. For her father, for the mess he'd left her, for the gift he'd given her in the form of a flower delivery driver who saw too much and cared too much and was teaching his son to do the same. When she was done crying, she called Dominic. It's going to get worse before it gets better, she said. I know. But we're going to win. I know that too. How? Because your father planned for this. Because you're exactly as strong as he said you were. And because Levi drew you a picture, which means you're officially a superhero now. Those are the rules. Violet laughed through her tears. Those are terrible rules. Take it up with a 6-year-old. I just enforce them. After they hung up, Violet looked at the drawing on her wall. A woman in a wheelchair with a sword. A single father throwing roses. A dragon in a tie. Sometimes the weapons you needed came in unexpected forms. Sometimes strength looked like vulnerability. Sometimes the fight you never asked for became the fight that defined you. Violet picked up one of the red roses from Thursday's delivery. The thorns bit into her palm. Some things were worth bleeding for. Sarah Chen's first article dropped on a Wednesday morning like a bomb. The headline read, Corporate Espionage Ring, How Titan Corporation Plants Operatives in Competitor Companies. By noon, every major news outlet had picked up the story. By evening, the SEC had expanded their investigation to include Richard Vance personally. Violet's phone didn't stop ringing. Reporters, shareholders, board members who suddenly wanted to express their complete support. She ignored most of them. The one call she took came at 7 p.m. from a number she didn't recognize. Ms. Sterling. Richard Vance's voice was smooth practiced. I think we should talk. I have nothing to say to you. Not even about your father's accident. Violet's blood went cold. What about it? Such a tragedy. A man who maintained his vehicles so meticulously dying because of a corroded brake line. The coincidence has always troubled me. He paused. I'd hate for similar coincidences to happen to anyone else you care about. A single father, for instance, raising his son alone. Children are so vulnerable, aren't they? If you touch Dominic or Levi, I'm not threatening anyone, Ms. Sterling. I'm simply observing that accidents happen, especially to people who make themselves targets. His voice hardened. Drop this investigation. Retract your statements to the press. Issue an apology for the damage you've done to Titan Corporation's reputation. Do this, and everyone stays safe. Or what, you'll kill me too. Kill a child, is that who you are? I'm a businessman protecting his interests. What happens next depends entirely on your choices. He hung up. Violet's hands shook so badly she dropped the phone. Marcus found her like that, staring at nothing, her breathing too fast. Ms. Sterling, what happened? Call Dominic. Tell him to take Levi and go somewhere safe. Now. What? Now Marcus. Marcus made the call. 10 minutes later, Dominic called back. Violet, what's going on? She told him about Vance's threat. The line went silent for so long she thought he'd hung up. Dominic, I'm taking Levi to my sister's in Boston. We'll leave tonight. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never thought... Stop. His voice cut through her panic. This isn't your fault. Vance is the one making threats. Vance is the one willing to hurt a child to protect his empire. That's on him, not you. But if I'd just stayed quiet, then he would have destroyed your company and moved on to the next one. You're not responsible for the choices evil men make, Violet. You're only responsible for how you respond to them. He exhaled. I'll call you when we're safe. Don't do anything until then. Promise me. I promise. After he hung up, Violet sat in her empty office, the weight of it all crushing down. Her father was dead, possibly murdered. Now Vance was threatening a 6-year-old boy because she'd dared to fight back. Every instinct screamed at her to surrender to protect Dominic and Levi at any cost. But surrender meant Vance won. Meant her father died for nothing. Meant the next person who stood up to Titan Corporation would face the same threats, the same fear, the same impossible choice. Her phone buzzed. Another message from her father's number. Message 3 of 5. I'm guessing by now Vance has shown his true colors. Threatened someone you care about. Tried to make you choose between doing what's right and protecting the people you love. Here's what I learned: men like Vance count on fear. They count on good people backing down because the cost feels too high. But Violet, the cost of backing down is always higher. It costs your soul, your integrity, your ability to look at yourself in the mirror. Whatever Vance threatens, whatever he does, don't give him that victory. Fight. I'm with you. Dad. Violet read the message 3 times. Her father had known. Somehow he'd known exactly how this would play out, exactly when she'd need to hear this. She called Sarah Chen. I need you to publish everything, not just Peter and the merger, everything about Richard Vance, every company he's infiltrated, every person he's threatened, every law he's broken. And I need it published tomorrow. Violet, that's risky. Once that information is public, there's no pulling it back. Vance will come at you with everything he has. He's already threatened to hurt a child, a 6-year-old boy whose only crime was having a father brave enough to help me. I'm done being careful. Violet's voice steadied. Vance thinks fear will control me. He's wrong. I'll need to verify some additional sources. Give me 24 hours. You have 12. The next morning, Sarah's second article appeared. This one included documentation of 3 other companies where Titan had planted operatives. It included testimony from 4 former Titan employees about the company's retaliation tactics. And it included Peter Chen's full confession given to the SEC in exchange for immunity. Peter had talked about everything. The planned sabotage, his uncle's instructions, the other operatives still embedded in competitor companies. He'd even confirmed what Violet had suspected: Charles Sterling's accident hadn't been an accident. Richard Vance had ordered it after learning that Charles was getting too close to exposing the entire scheme. The confession included details. The mechanic Vance had paid to weaken the brake line. The timing planned for a day when Charles would be driving on Route 7, known for its dangerous curves. The cleanup afterward, making sure no evidence survived. Violet read Peter's statement in her office, tears streaming down her face. Her father hadn't died because of bad luck or old age, or the universe's random cruelty. He'd been murdered. And now she had proof. Marcus knocked softly. Ms. Sterling, the FBI is here. They want to speak with you about your father's death. The FBI agents were professional, thorough. They asked questions, took notes, promised a full investigation. By afternoon, federal warrants had been issued for Richard Vance and 3 other Titan executives. Vance was arrested at his office. The news showed him in handcuffs being led past reporters. For once, his smooth confidence had cracked. He looked old, small, defeated. Violet watched the footage with something between satisfaction and emptiness. Justice for her father, but her father was still dead. Vance would go to prison, but prison wouldn't bring Charles Sterling back. Her phone rang. Dominic. We saw the news. Levi wants to know if the dragon is caught. The dragon is caught. Can we come home? Yes, please. They returned the next day. Levi burst into Violet's office like a small tornado, launching into a detailed account of his adventure in Boston, including a description of his aunt's cat, who apparently hated everyone, but especially him and the museum they'd visited that had dinosaurs the size of buildings. Dominic followed more slowly, exhaustion written in every line of his body. You okay? Violet asked after Levi had run off to tell Marcus about the dinosaurs. I am now. You. I don't know. My father was murdered. I should feel something more than just tired. Grief doesn't follow a schedule. Neither does anger or relief or whatever else you're feeling. He sat across from her. You did it, though. You got justice for him. We did it. You found the connections. You risked your son's safety. You trusted me when you had every reason not to. Your father asked me to. My father asked you to deliver flowers. You chose to do the rest. Dominic smiled slightly. Maybe I'm brave stupid, like Levi says. Maybe you're just brave. The board meeting the following week was almost anticlimactic. Margaret Ashford opened with a formal apology. I questioned your judgment, Violet. I was wrong. Your leadership has been exemplary under impossible circumstances. James Sutton nodded. The SEC has confirmed that Peter Chen's activities could have bankrupted this company within 18 months. Your quick action saved Sterling Industries, saved all of us. It wasn't just me. Violet looked at Dominic sitting at the table's far end. Dominic Cole identified the connections no one else saw. Without him, we'd have walked into the Titan merger blind. Then we owe Mr. Cole our gratitude as well. Margaret turned to him. On behalf of the board, thank you. Dominic nodded but said nothing. He'd been quiet all morning, distracted. After the meeting, Violet cornered him in the hallway. What's wrong? I need to tell you something about why I was at that church 3 years ago, why your father found me there. Okay. Levi's mother, Emma. She left when he was 6 months old, just packed a bag one day and disappeared. No note, no explanation, nothing. I spent a year looking for her, hired investigators, filed missing person reports, checked hospitals. Nothing. Dominic. Then one day, I'm at the church praying for answers or peace or something, and this old man sits next to me. We talk. He tells me about his daughter, how she survived something that would have broken most people, how she's stronger than anyone gives her credit for. He tells me that sometimes the people we lose are lost because they need to be, and our job is to take care of the ones who stay. Violet's throat tightened. My father told you about me. He didn't use your name, but he talked about a daughter who'd lost the use of her legs in an accident, who refused to let that define her, who ran a company despite everyone saying she couldn't. Dominic met her eyes. That conversation is why I pulled him from the car 3 weeks later. I recognized him. And I couldn't let someone who'd given me hope when I needed it most die on a random highway. So you saved him. So I tried to save him. I got him out, but the damage was already done. The brake line had failed on a curve. The car hit a tree before rolling. He had internal injuries I couldn't see. Dominic's voice cracked. He died in the hospital 2 days later, and I've wondered ever since if I'd been faster, if I'd done something different. Stop. Violet grabbed at his hand. You gave him 2 extra days. 2 days he used to arrange everything for me. The letters, the roses, the plan to protect Sterling Industries. He wouldn't have had time to do any of that if you'd let him die in that car. She squeezed his fingers. You didn't fail him, Dominic. You gave him the chance to save me. Dominic's eyes were wet. I never told anyone about the conversation at the church, about recognizing him. It felt private, like something he'd shared in confidence. He trusted you with his fears, his hopes for me. That's not a small thing. He was right about you. You are stronger than anyone gives you credit for. Only because he made sure I had help when I needed it. Violet pulled back. What happened to Emma? Did you ever find out? She called last year from California. Said she'd been depressed after Levi was born, couldn't handle being a mother, needed to figure out who she was. She's engaged now, happy. Wanted to know if she could visit Levi. What did you say? I said no. Not because I'm angry or want revenge, but because Levi has built a life without her. He's happy adjusted, doing well in school. Bringing her back into his life would confuse him, hurt him. Maybe when he's older, he can decide if he wants a relationship with her. But not now. Dominic exhaled. Your father helped me make that decision. Reminded me that being a parent means protecting your child, even from people who share their DNA. He was good at that, protecting from a distance. He protected you right up until he couldn't anymore. Then he made sure someone else would. Dominic straightened. I'm not your father, Violet. I can't replace him or be what he was, but I can keep doing what he asked, keep watching out for you, keep helping you see the things others miss. I don't want you to replace my father. I want you to be exactly who you are. That's more than enough. Levi appeared around the corner, Marcus trailing behind. Ms. Violet, Mr. Marcus says there's a cafeteria with ice cream. Can we go? Can Daddy come? Violet looked at Dominic, who shrugged helplessly. Apparently ice cream is a crisis that requires immediate attention. Then we'd better handle it. She turned to Marcus. Take the afternoon off. You've earned it. The four of them went to the cafeteria. Levi got chocolate with sprinkles. Dominic got vanilla. Marcus got strawberry. Violet got mint chip and listened to Levi explain why dinosaurs were better than dragons, but dragons were cooler than robots, which was obvious to anyone with a brain. For the first time since her father's death, Violet felt something like peace. Not happiness exactly. Not with everything that had happened. But peace. The knowledge that she'd fought for what mattered and won. That justice had prevailed. That good people still existed in the world, even if they came disguised as flower delivery drivers with worn shoes and 6-year-old sons who thought wheelchairs were cool. Her phone buzzed. Another text from her father's number. Message 4 of 5. If you're reading this, then the worst is over. Vance is caught. Sterling Industries is safe. You're safe. I'm proud of you, Violet. Prouder than I ever told you when I was alive. You're twice the CEO I ever was. But more than that, you're a good person. You care about people. You fight for what's right even when it costs you. That's what makes you extraordinary. Not the company, not the success, not any of the things I built. You. Just you. One more message left. Save it for when you need reminding, Dad. Violet excused herself, rolled to the bathroom, and cried. Not sad tears this time. Grateful ones. For her father's foresight, for Dominic's courage, for Levi's innocence, for the chance to fight and win, and know she'd done it the right way. When she returned, Levi had ice cream on his nose. Dominic was trying to wipe it off, while Levi protested that he was saving it for later. Marcus was laughing at them both. Everything okay? Dominic asked. Everything's perfect. And she meant it. That night, alone in her apartment, Violet looked at Levi's drawing on her wall. The woman with the wheelchair and sword. The man throwing roses at dragons. It wasn't art, it was truth. Sometimes the weapons you needed came in unexpected forms. Sometimes strength meant accepting help. Sometimes family was something you built, not something you were born into. She picked up one of her father's red roses, now dried and preserved in a vase. The thorns had dulled, but were still there, still capable of drawing blood if you weren't careful. Her father had been careful. Had planned for contingencies no one else saw coming. Had given her exactly what she needed, exactly when she needed it. And in doing so, had taught her the final lesson he'd never gotten to tell her in person. Love wasn't just about being present. Sometimes it was about making sure the people you cared about would be okay after you were gone. About leaving them tools and allies and reminders that they were stronger than they knew. Charles Sterling had done that. Had pulled strings from beyond the grave to make sure his daughter survived. And in the process, had given her not just a company worth saving, but a reason to save it. People like Dominic and Levi, who deserved a world where good people won, where courage mattered, where pulling strangers from burning cars still meant something. Violet touched the dried rose petals. Some things were worth bleeding for. Some fights were worth fighting. And some gifts from dead fathers were worth treasuring, even when they came wrapped in thorns and mystery and flower deliveries that changed everything. 3 months passed like water through fingers. Richard Vance's trial dominated headlines for weeks before the jury returned a guilty verdict on all counts. Murder, conspiracy, fraud, corporate espionage. The judge gave him 25 years, effectively a life sentence for a man his age. Peter Chen got 12 years for his cooperation, though his testimony had put the final nails in his uncle's coffin. Sterling Industries' stock recovered, then climbed. Eleanor Price came back as VP of Finance once Titan's lawsuit collapsed under the weight of federal charges. The board stopped questioning Violet's decisions. Even Margaret Ashford sent a handwritten note apologizing for her earlier doubts. But the real changes happened in smaller moments. In the way Dominic's office slowly filled with Levi's artwork covering every wall. In the Thursday morning ritual of rose deliveries that Dominic kept doing even though no one required it anymore. In the way Violet started leaving her office at reasonable hours, joining Dominic and Levi for dinner at least once a week. On a Thursday in late spring, Violet found Dominic in the 42nd floor conference room, surrounded by her father's old files. He'd been working through them, methodically, documenting everything Charles Sterling had suspected, but never proven. "Find anything interesting?" Dominic looked up, exhaustion and excitement competing in his expression. "Your father was tracking something bigger than Titan. He thought there was a network. Multiple CEOs working together to manipulate markets, plant operatives, destroy competition. That's conspiracy theory territory. Maybe. But he has names, dates, patterns. Companies that failed right before advantageous acquisitions. Board members who showed up in multiple places right before major decisions. It's circumstantial, but there's a lot of it." He pushed a notebook toward her. "He was building a case. Started it years before he died. I think that's why Vance killed him. Not just because of Peter, but because your father was getting close to exposing something much bigger." Violet picked up the notebook, scanned the pages. Her father's handwriting covered every inch, arrows connecting names and companies in a web that spread across dozens of industries. If it's real, your father died protecting not just Sterling Industries, but exposing a conspiracy that's been manipulating American business for decades. Dominic leaned back. "But we can't prove any of it, not yet. And going public without proof just makes us look paranoid. So what do? We keep looking. Carefully, quietly, the way your father did." He met her eyes. "But Violet, this could take years, and it's dangerous. If there really is a network, they're not going to let us expose them without a fight. My father fought them for years. Your father died." The words hung between them, heavy and undeniable. Violet set down the notebook. "You're right. If we do this, we need to be smarter than he was, more careful. We also need to decide if it's worth it. You've already avenged your father. Sterling Industries is safe. You could walk away from this, focus on running the company, living your life. No one would blame you. Would you walk away?" Dominic was quiet for a long moment. "No. Because Levi deserves to grow up in a world where powerful men can't just kill anyone who gets in their way, where corruption has consequences, where doing the right thing doesn't get you murdered." He rubbed his face. "But I'm not asking what I would do. I'm asking what you want to do." Violet looked at the files spread across the table. Years of her father's work. Thousands of hours of investigation, documentation, careful planning. He'd died before finishing it, but he'd made sure she'd have what she needed to continue. "I want to finish what he started, but not today. Not rushing into it the way I rushed into fighting Vance." She turned her chair toward the windows. "Today, I want to go home at a reasonable hour. Have dinner with you and Levi. Remember what we're fighting for." "That sounds perfect." They left the files where they were secure behind a locked door on a floor most people didn't know existed. The fight could wait. The conspiracy could wait. Tonight was for living. Dinner happened at Violet's apartment. Levi had never seen it before, and spent the first 20 minutes running from room to room, declaring each one so big and asking why she needed so much space if she lived alone. "It's not that big," Violet protested. "Ms. Violet, our whole apartment could fit in your living room." Levi's eyes were huge. "You could have so many toys here." "I don't really play with toys." "That's sad. Daddy, we should get Ms. Violet some toys." Dominic was trying not to laugh. "I think Ms. Violet has different hobbies, buddy." "Like what?" Violet considered. "I read. And I collect art. And I work too much according to everyone who knows me. Reading is good. Daddy makes me read every night. But art is just pictures on walls." Levi squinted at a painting that had cost Violet $40,000. "I could make better pictures than that." "Levi," Dominic warned. "It's okay." Violet smiled. He's probably right. I have one of his drawings in my office, and I look at it more than I look at any of these. Levi beamed. Really? Really? The one with me fighting the dragon. It's my favorite thing in the whole office. I could make you more. I could make you 100 dragons. How about we start with dinner before you commit to 100 dragons? Dominic steered his son toward the table. Ms. Violet was kind enough to have food delivered. We should eat it while it's hot. They'd ordered Italian. Levi narrated a detailed story about dragons while consuming his weight in pasta. Dominic asked Violet about her day, carefully avoiding any mention of work. She asked about Levi's school, his friends, his current obsession with space exploration. Mrs. Peterson says we might be able to live on Mars someday, Levi announced. I'm going to be the first kid on Mars. That's ambitious, Violet said. Daddy says I can do anything if I work hard enough. Daddy's right. Daddy also says you're the strongest person he knows. Levi looked at her seriously. Is that because of your wheelchair? Levi, we talked about this. Dominic started, but Violet held up a hand. It's okay. It's a fair question. She turned to Levi. The wheelchair isn't what makes me strong. It's just the thing I use to get around because my legs don't work anymore. What makes me strong is deciding every day that I'm going to keep going even when things are hard. Like when the bad guys tried to hurt your company. Exactly like that. And Daddy helped you fight them. Your daddy helped me more than anyone. He's pretty strong too. Levi nodded, satisfied. I know. He's the strongest daddy in the world, except when he tries to cook. Then he's just loud because the smoke alarm goes off. Dominic covered his face with his hands. I made pancakes one time. 3 times, Levi corrected. The smoke alarm went off every time. I'm a better analyst than I am a cook. That's why we eat cereal a lot. Levi turned to Violet. Do you eat cereal for dinner? Not usually. You should try it. It's good. And nothing catches on fire. After dinner, Levi fell asleep on Violet's couch, exhausted from exploring and talking. Dominic carried him to the guest room, tucked him in, and returned to find Violet on her balcony looking out at the city. He's a good kid, she said as Dominic joined her. He is. Sometimes I can't believe I got this lucky. Even without Emma. Especially without Emma. If she'd stayed, Levi would have a mother who resented him. Instead, he has a father who would burn the world down to protect him. That's a better deal. Violet was quiet for a moment. Do you ever regret it? Leaving finance, giving up your career, all the sacrifices you made? Not for a second. Money doesn't matter if you're not there for the people who need you. Titles don't matter if you've lost yourself chasing them. He leaned against the railing. Your father understood that. He built an empire, but at the end, what mattered most to him was making sure you'd be okay. Not the company. You. He had a funny way of showing it sometimes. He had a complicated way of showing it, but he showed it. Dominic glanced at her. The scholarship fund you set up for Levi. The way you made sure I could take this job without worrying about his future. That's the same thing. You're showing you care in the ways you know how. I learned from the best. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights flicker and glow. After a while, Dominic spoke again. About your father's investigation. The bigger conspiracy. If we're going to pursue it, we need rules. Such as, no taking unnecessary risks, no investigating alone, no trusting anyone we haven't vetted completely. He turned to face her. And if it ever looks like continuing will get someone killed, we stop. We walk away. Some fights aren't worth the cost. My father would disagree. Your father's dead, and I refuse to let that happen to you or to anyone else I care about. His voice was firm. Promise me, Violet. If it gets too dangerous, we stop. She met his eyes. Saw the fear there, the determination, the absolute refusal to lose someone else. I promise. But Dominic, I need you to promise me something too. What? What? If you ever want out, you walk away. No guilt, no explanations needed. You and Levi come first, always. I won't let my father's crusade destroy your life. Deal. They shook on it, and something shifted between them. Not friendship exactly, though they were friends. Not romance, though Violet felt a pull she wasn't quite ready to name. Something deeper. Partnership. Trust. The knowledge that they'd fought together and won, and they'd do it again if necessary. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, saw her father's number, and her breath caught. The last message. Do you want privacy? No, stay. She opened it, and her father's voice filled the balcony through the speaker. Message 5 of 5. If you're hearing this, then you made it through. You survived. You won. I'm so damn proud of you, Violet. You're everything I hoped you'd be, and more. But I need you to do something for me. I need you to stop fighting for just a minute and live, really live, not just work and strategy and protecting Sterling Industries. Live. Find people who make you laugh. Do things that have nothing to do with business. Let yourself be happy. You've earned it. And Violet, that man I sent you, Dominic. If he's still around, if he's become important to you, don't let him go. Men like that are rare. Men who see you for who you are, not what you have or what you can give them. Hold on to that. Hold on to him. Hold on to whatever makes you remember that life is worth more than the empire I built. I love you, sweetheart. Always have. Always will. Even from here. Dad. The message ended. Violet's hands shook. Dominic took the phone, gently set it aside, and just stood there, present and solid and real. He really did think of everything, Violet whispered. He thought of you. That's not the same thing. He sent me you. He sent you someone who happened to be in the right place at the right time. What happened after that, what we built, that's on us. Dominic's voice softened. Your father gave you a gift, Violet. But you're the one who chose to accept it. To trust a stranger who showed up wet and desperate with a kid in tow. That was you. I didn't have a choice. You had every choice. You could have thrown me out. Could have ignored the card. Could have handled everything alone the way you'd been doing since the accident. But you didn't. You let someone in. That's brave. Violet laughed, but it came out shaky. I don't feel brave. Brave people rarely do. They just keep showing up anyway. Inside, Levi stirred, calling out for his father. Dominic excused himself, returned a few minutes later with his son half awake and clinging to him like a koala. He wants to say good night. Levi lifted his head from Dominic's shoulder. Ms. Violet, can I come back to your big apartment with all the space for toys? Anytime you want. And can you come to my school thing next Thursday? We're doing presentations about heroes, and I'm doing mine about you and Daddy fighting corporate dragons. Violet's throat tightened. I'd be honored. Good. Because Mrs. Peterson says parents are supposed to come, but Daddy's not my parent. He's my only parent, so that's one person. But you could be the second person, if you want. Levi, Ms. Violet might be too busy, Dominic started. I'm not too busy. Violet looked at the boy, then at his father. I'll be there. Levi smiled satisfied and burrowed back into Dominic's shoulder. Okay, good night, Ms. Violet. Good night, Levi. After they left, Violet sat on her balcony for a long time, her father's final message echoing in her head. Live. Really live. Find people who make you laugh. Hold on to what matters. She thought about Dominic, about Levi, about Thursday dinners and dragon drawings, and the way she'd started looking forward to Rose deliveries, not because of tradition, but because of the people attached to them. She thought about her father, manipulating events from beyond the grave, to make sure she'd have exactly what she needed. Not just protection, not just an ally, but a reminder that life was more than work and vengeance and protecting an empire. Her phone rang. Dominic. Did I leave something? No. I just wanted to say thank you. For dinner, for including Levi, for agreeing to come to his presentation, even though you probably have a dozen more important things to do. Nothing's more important than that kid thinking I'm a hero. I have a reputation to maintain now. Dominic laughed. Fair enough. But Violet, about what your father said, about not letting me go. You know I'm not going anywhere, right? This job, this partnership, whatever this is, I'm in it. For however long you need me. What if I need you forever? The words came out before she could stop them. Silence stretched. Violet closed her eyes, mortified. Then Dominic spoke, his voice warm. "Then I guess we'll figure out what forever looks like. Together." After they hung up, Violet went inside, rolled past her expensive art and her empty rooms, and stopped in front of Levi's dragon drawing still taped to her wall. A woman in a wheelchair with a sword. A man throwing roses. A dragon in a tie, defeated and small. Sometimes the battles you fought changed you. Sometimes the people you met in the middle of disasters became the people you couldn't imagine living without. Sometimes gifts from dead fathers came wrapped in thorns and mystery and flower deliveries that altered everything. Violet picked up one of the red roses, the last from that first Thursday, when a soaking wet delivery driver had refused to leave until she read her father's card. The petals had dried, now preserved and fragile. She held it carefully, mindful of the thorns that could still draw blood if she wasn't careful. But she wasn't careful. She gripped it firmly, felt the sharp points press into her palm without breaking skin, and smiled. Her father had been right about so many things. About Dominic, about the conspiracy, about her strength. But he'd been wrong about one thing. The thorns weren't what made the roses worth keeping. It was everything else. The color, the fragrance, the way something so delicate could survive being cut from its roots and still bloom. She'd been cut from her roots, too. The accident had severed her from the life she'd planned, the future she'd imagined. But she hadn't withered. She'd bloomed. Different than she expected, harder than she wanted, but bloomed nonetheless. And now she had Dominic and Levi thorns of their own, complicated and difficult and absolutely worth keeping. She had a company worth protecting, a father's legacy worth honoring, and battles worth fighting only because the people beside her made victory meaningful. Thursday would come again. Dominic would deliver roses. Levi would tell stories about dragons and dinosaurs and Mars. She'd go to a 6-year-old's presentation and pretend she was a hero, even though she'd never felt less heroic and more human in her entire life. And that was okay. Maybe being human was the whole point. Maybe her father's final lesson wasn't about strength or strategy or beating the bad guys. Maybe it was about remembering that empires meant nothing if you built them alone. That wheelchairs didn't define weakness any more than worn shoes defined worth. That sometimes the most radical thing you could do was trust a stranger, accept help, and let yourself be vulnerable enough to care about people who had nothing to give you except themselves. Violet set the rose down carefully, thorns and all, and rolled to her bedroom. Tomorrow she'd fight more battles, face more challenges, continue her father's work of exposing corruption and protecting what mattered. But tonight, she'd sleep. And when Thursday came, she'd accept her roses with gratitude. Invite Dominic and Levi to dinner without hesitation, and show up for a school presentation because a 6-year-old boy thought she was a hero, and maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe him. Some things were worth bleeding for. Some people were worth trusting. Some gifts from dead fathers were worth accepting even when they changed everything. And some disabled CEOs refused flower deliveries until they read the card and discovered that the real delivery wasn't roses at all. It was hope wrapped in thorns, carried by a single father who saw what others didn't and taught a woman in a wheelchair that strength came in forms she'd never expected and always needed.